Hello and welcome to the second in this series of videos, and may I say right from the outset thank you to all those that watched all 19 minutes of the first introduction. I know there's only a handful of you, so I'm making a special effort to say thank you. To everybody else that followed the option to skip ahead, welcome to the fun bit. Right, in this video we're going to be looking at this very shaved down model. All it is 240 volt lighting assets, a relay pack, and we're going to be putting some glass panels into connect up as well. But before we do that, we obviously have to show you how it's wired up. Now the important thing to talk about is the cable for the data bus. There are a variety of cables out there, all to the EIB standard, and I'll put links to them in the descriptions below. But basically they are a 4-core cable. Which best camera shows? There's a power pair and a twisted data pair. You'll notice all of these cables have the same format: a power pair and a data pair, power pair and a data pair. I'll show you all those later. So when you're wiring in your Velbus assets, it's simply one wire around the property. Now in the example we showed in the previous video, we showed it as just a radial with various T's on it. In this one, it is a complete loop. So it comes out of the cabinet, up and round into every asset, and then closes the loop back into the cabinet. Now what we'd ask you to do when you're commissioning is to not close that loop. Keep it as a radial until you're happy that all the assets are present on the bus. And then when you're happy, close that loop, and that just means belt and braces. That means should anything happen to the connectors, you're just going to get data and power from one of the directions. Doesn't happen very often, but you know what, for the sake of a small loop closure, it's a little bit of a reassurance. 240 volt assets, they're wired in single radial. So you can see we've got each ceiling rose just wired back to a single connection. Now if you had 20 ceiling rows, 40 downlights, that's up to you to gauge the cable and to gauge the correct routing, but all you're doing is one radial to all of your downlights, one radial to all of the assets. And the same applies if you're doing low voltage lighting, window control, blinds, special effects, garden fountains. It's just one power cable back to the cabinet. So let's have a look inside and see what's going on. So yes, this is a plastic cabinet. Yes, it's old. I'm not an 18th electrician. I'm not here to tell you how to do electrical installations. This is how you configure Velbus within your installation. So just to be clear on that. So trusty uninsulated screwdriver. Yes, the power's off, so we're safe to proceed. As you would normally do, and it's entirely up to you, regardless of what safety devices you have to fit for your installation. We're not here to discuss this. This is purely from here onwards. So we have power from the breaker, and that's going into the 15 volt power supply that is then distributed to the PCB rail, and that's also connected to the Velbus devices around the property. Once you've got 15 volt on that rail, as you can see, it's a simple matter of putting the Velbus devices onto that rail and making sure each one of those 4 rising cage connections are intact. Now, little trick for you when you're installing. If you just want to make sure that it's all in properly, if you take a little flat bladed screwdriver and just push each prong, it takes a few seconds. If the prong doesn't wobble, it's the right side of the cage. If it wobbles, you know what you've done wrong. And that little test will save you an awful lot of time and effort later on. If a module isn't working or is not responding, just check that you've actually gone the right side of the rising cage. So that's you connected into the modules. This is a common supply voltage relay. So we've got power coming in at the bottom here. In this case, it's live and neutral. You could be running 12 volt, 24 volt, 110. I mean, who knows? The pack doesn't care what voltage it is. It's just a clean PCB track right the way through. So all you're doing is you're just switching the outputs. Neutral or 0 volt side is common across all of the outputs, and the live side goes through the relay and back to the live. This particular unit has got a 16 amp maximum current across the entire unit, and that's a restriction of the PCB, but the relay contacts inside are each industrial relays with 16 amp tolerance and 80 amp inrush. And that's it. That really is as simple as it gets. You've wired your assets into the relay and it's on. So let's pop the cover back on because nobody wants to work live on a cabinet. And before we even get to the software, we'll do a bit of circuit testing. Right, now switch it on. And we've got some power. Little blue light there. If we take the covers off the Velbus devices, it's a little flat blade skivered in the side, and you're off, you can see we've got a red LED to indicate that this unit has power, and then the two LEDs by the side of it are traffic indicators. So you remember in the previous videos that we spoke about there's nothing happening on the bus when there's nothing happening, so that's why those lights are off. If you look closely, when I press a button, those bottom two will flicker very quickly and then flicker when they go off. That just indicates there's traffic on the bus when things are happening. Another way of fault finding, if you're looking at the rail, if it's all dormant and you press one thing, all of the RX lights should flicker simultaneously. So that's a quick and easy way of knowing that everything's working. So you've wired your system in, you haven't got any software, you haven't configured anything, you haven't set any base addresses. All you want to do is know that that asset is working. So you've taken the cover off and you go, channel 1, yes, circuit 1's working. Channel 2, channel 3, and channel 4. That's it. From an electrical point of view, you're safe in the knowledge that that's working. So the next thing to do is to think about what we're going to do for a glass panel. So on this occasion, we're just going to be running one single button glass panel because the bare minimum for a Velbus network is 2 devices. So we've got the relay output device and we have an input device. So coming up here, these are simply wired, all 4, which camera's picking that up? So all 4 are wired in. We've got data low, data high, positive power and 0 volt power, all paralleled across all of them. There's absolutely no difference in how any of those are wired. So the back of the unit has a connector. The connectors will only go in one way round. That's in, and if I'd picked one with a frame on, we could have clipped it in. There we go. So that's in. Now, as soon as it gets power, it will start clicking. And that just signifies that there's power. Now, if you are interested, on the back of the unit, can't quite see it, but on the back of the power, can't see it in this camera, on the back of the unit, there is a little LED that shows bus activity. So if you're really trying to fault find and you've got an issue, that's the way to find out. So the fun bit, we need to connect to the software. So it's a USB connection. There's various options for this, but in this scenario we're just using the classic USB. And we plug in. That's now connected to the laptop. We fire up the Velbus Link software. So this is where the fun bit starts. And pay attention, this is going to happen quite quickly, unlike a lot of other systems. So we start a new project. I know this was just the generic name. If you want to change it, then click on this bit here and it'll open up a window and you can change the name, but I've just left it as the standard one. Yes, I'm quite happy to overwrite that project. I want to connect to the existing network, and on this page we have an option of how you're going to connect. In this scenario we're using the USB, so we'll choose the top one there. And the next window gives us an option as to which USB. Clearly we've only got one, so it's only going to give us one option. But if on a strange event you had multiples, then that's where they'd all appear. So yes, I want to connect to the network. I just want to scan the network, sorry. But I don't want to auto-assign base addresses. It's just a personal preference. I like to define glass panels in a certain range, like glass relays, subject to what they're doing. So I might put heating relays in a number range on their own. I might put downstairs lighting relays in another range. I might put downstairs dimmers in another range. It's just my way of doing things. You'll find your own. There's no right or wrong way. So it'll scan the bus, and there we go. Straight off, it's found our 2 brand new modules that are in there. You can let it scan the rest. It won't find anything in this scenario, but it's always good practice to let it run its course. So the next thing to do is, do we want to read from the modules? Now, these are new modules for the sake of the argument here and the sake of the demonstration, so I'm not going to bother reading from them. If you are going to an existing installation, then yes, you would say read all the settings. Now, even if you're going back to your own installation and the client tells you faithfully that they haven't touched anything, I would always scan and do a brand new read of the modules, just in case something's changed. And also what they might have done, if you've given them user interface control, they might have changed some temperature presets, they might have changed some alarm times. And if you don't scan and read those settings, when you write back, you'll send them back to how it was when you were last there. So just a bit of good practice. So we're going to start with blank modules on this occasion. Now, these are unaddressed modules. So the first thing we need to do is define what we're going to do with them and where they're going to be. So you can either right-hand click and choose change address, or you can click on the red thing there, which brings up the same pop-up. Now, if this was a full installation, this page would be absolutely rammed with bits of kit. So what you could do is you could switch off various inputs and you can filter down to what you want. So there you go. We only have relays in this scenario now. However, the other way of doing it is if you have a pack of relays. So let's imagine that all of these are relays for the moment and we want to know which one is which. What you can do is click on this little button here, which will select it. So if we just press one of the buttons in here, it'll now select that module. And we can go into the address and we can say, let's give it 20, hexadecimal 20. And we write that change. There we go, that's addressed. And then the same applies with the glass panels. So you'd have quite possibly 100 glass panels on a good project. You might only have 3. So click that auto detect, tap the glass panel in question, and that brings up the option. And in this scenario, let's call it 30, because that's at the top of the list, and we'll write those changes. Now, don't worry about the thermostat for the moment. We're going to do thermostats when we look at the heating control relay packs and the heating control solution. At the moment, we're only interested in lighting. So that's it. That's our 2 modules addressed. We are going to be adding a few more during this video, so you'll see that done again. Now, if we expand this pack here, you can see at the moment, there's nothing in there. Now, if I right-hand click and choose rename, I can call it, that button, I can call it lighting, and I can tab and I can go pendant 1, tab, pendant 2, pendant 3, and then the one is down light. There we go. So that's it. We've now named all of those channels. So we know channel 1 is that, channel 4 is the downlight. So let's just synchronize the changes so that from here on in, those names are kept. And on this, we'll say only write the change. Actually, first off, we'll write everything. So we're completely resetting everything to make sure it absolutely matches with what the project thinks it is. It does take a little bit of time to do this because it is rewriting the memory map on every single device, in which case only 2, so not a massive amount. You'll see as we progress, this gets a lot quicker. Right. So there we are. We have wiped the slate clean and made sure that the modules absolutely have complete parity with our project. So what do we want to do now? What we want is to control one of those lights. So watch carefully. There are 3 ways of doing this. I'm going to do one, show you it working, delete it, show you a different way, show it working, delete it, and then show you the 3rd way. So watch carefully. We know that this, actually tell you what, we'll rename that one. Just while we're here, we'll call this Zone 1. There we go. So we left-hand click on that one, and we drag and drop. Well, this mouse won't let me drag and drop. Well, that's useful to know. Okay, so I'm going to resort to the touchpad on the keyboard. I'm left-hand clicking, I'm holding the mouse, and I'm dragging that over pendant 1. That then brings us up with the action wizard. So what do we want to do? Most of the times, all you actually want to do is toggle it on and off. So click on the toggle, click on OK, and synchronize your actions. Now on this occasion, we are going to say only write changes, and this is how quick this is. Done, finished. So you'll see that arrow at the top there is now, the synchronized thing has now gone green, which means that is now switching the relay on and off. Just like that. That easy. Okay, let's clear that action and I'll show you a different way of doing it. So clear the action. Yes, we're going to repeat this in a different way. So this time we're going to click on the output we want. We're going to confirm that yes, that is definitely the asset we want to control. Is that the one? Yes, it is. That's fine. Okay, so we know we're definitely talking about the right bit of kit, right asset. We can click on add. That will this will bring up the same action wizard, and it auto populates the subject. So the subject in this case is the relay channel. What we want to do is select the initiator. So we're going to select. That gives us a list of available options, and as you can see, it's filtered to be only inputs. There is a really good reason for that, and in later videos we'll explain it, but this is a simple get you started video. So it's filtering input buttons. We've got a 1 button, we expand it, and we say we want button number 1. We click on button 1, and that then populates the initiator. So this now looks exactly the same as it did using the other method. Here we say toggle again, OK, and as you can see, nothing's changed on the bus. So I should have written that. So nothing's changed. It wants to write exactly the same action. So let's delete that action. Let's clear those again, and I'll show you the other way of doing it. So let's have a look at the third way of doing it. Now, if you're lucky enough to have someone on site with you, this makes life really easy. Just once you've got that add button illuminated somehow, just click on it. It doesn't matter what the pop-up brings up, we're about to wipe it. So you've got your, let's imagine for a second that you're sat in the comms room, you're near the cabinet, and you've got the ability to say, to determine which asset is going to get switched on. So we're going to filter off everything else, and we're simply going to say that is the channel that we want to control on this occasion. So it's lighting relay, and it's the downlights, and we can confirm that because it's come from said downlights channel 4. Yes, that's what we want. Now you call to your assistant who is somewhere else in the building, and you say, assistant, I want you to press the button that you want to control that light. So they will go up and they will tap the button. Your wizard here will report that it says zone 1 push button 1. You go, yep, that's the one I wanted, accept it, and on this occasion we'll say, let's have a timer for something different. We'll say start stop interval timer, 10 seconds with 1 second pulsing, just because I want something different. And if we click on that one there, we can see that action we've created, and there it is down the bottom. If we synchronize that, just like that, that's done. So that goes off, it switches on, you can see so we've got the action set now, and if you click that button, the LED will flash on the glass panel to say that there is an action running, and the relay will react by switching the channel on and off every second for 10 seconds and then go off. If you don't like that and you go, do you know what, that was a ridiculous thing to program, why would anybody ever do that? And there are times. You simply double click on the action, if you can get it to stay in the right place. Say, I didn't want that one, what a ridiculous thing. What I wanted was a simple toggle. What sort of idiot would set an interval timer? You've changed it, you've set it, you're synchronizing it, you're done. That's better. On and off, Billy. That's what we wanted. We didn't want an interval timer. And that's it. That's how you add actions. And you can do that as many times as you want with as many actions. I'm going to put a link in the description below where there's a web page with a list of all of the actions, graphics defining what they do and how they interact with each other. So if you're curious, just follow out the link and have a look at the literally hundreds of actions there are out there. But of course, you don't just have one glass panel in a property, do you? You'll have 2, 3, 10, 20. So let's add another glass panel. I'm going to plug it into the system and just clip it on. There we go, that's in and on. And we come back and we scan the bus. And that should find our third module. There we go, it's actually popped up. So we can, if you want, just cancel that because we know that's what we're looking for. So you notice that little pop-up that said there's unassigned modules. So we click on the assign action and we're going to call this, actually we can rename it here. We can call it Zone 2. That's done, and we're going to give it a base address. Let's see, what did we have last time? We had 30, so let's call this 40, just because I'm lazy. There we go, that's that one added. So at the moment, what we have on our model is one button controlling one lamp. But what if you want two-way switching? Two-way switching, God, those strappers and the wiring in the of the ceiling roses. Can't think and do at the same time. So again, let's try button number 1. We'll drop it on top of the downlighters and we'll choose toggle and OK and synchronize. Only save the changes. Now again, because it's the first time this module's been written to, it is going to completely rewrite the memory map, so it'll take a little bit of time. But you know this because you were paying attention earlier. So now, if you look carefully, let's just scroll down a bit so we can, oops, scroll, let's move, pan down a bit, tilt down a bit, let's tilt down a bit. Okay, so we've still got the action assigned between that button there, that's working. But for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll notice that the feedback LED is coming on in this button, second one. And we can press that button and it links on and off. Job done. Now if you want to be really clever, you could say, well, I didn't want that one on there. What I wanted was the other channel. So we can go up there and we can reassign it and we'll say button 1, we want to be pendant 1. That same action and we'll do it. We want button 2 to be pendant 2. We press that and go, yes, that's right. And we want that as an action, as a toggle. We want button 3 to be pendant 3 and an action, and we'll toggle it and we'll save it. And we want button 4 to be the pendant. Detect it. Number 4. Only switch them off because just etiquette really. Right, there we go. So we've now assigned 4 actions to 4 buttons, and we can now say 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice that when that comes on and off, that follows it. Pendant 1, pendant 2, pendant 3, and downlight. That's it. You've added actions. If you want to be really tidy, you can right-hand click and choose rename, and you can go pendant 1, pendant 2, pendant 3, and down light. Now, some of you will be asking, why is he bothering? We know it's pendant 1, 2, 3, it works, why bother? And to a lot of degrees, you're right. As an electrical installation, it works, it's done, you don't need to label it. However, if you're then going to be putting control software on top of this, and something like Open Hab, Control 4, Home Assistant, Open Remote, Bisonia, Trigger, any number of them, they will simply collect the bus and they will read all of your programming. And in that, they'll read the channel names. Now, if you've labeled them properly, their job becomes a lot easier because they can simply say, oh, here you are, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, here's an interface, and because you installed or labeled it properly, we know that's pendant 1, pendant 2, pendant 3, and downlight. So it's just a bit of etiquette, and it also means when you're fault finding later on and you come back to a project, you can read it and you go, aha, pendant 1, Nice and easy. So thanks for watching. That was the lighting video. Really straightforward. You've seen us add glass panels to it. You've seen us talk about the wiring and how that goes in. We've talked about the pendant and how they're all single radials back to a relay pack. We've looked at scanning modules on the bus. We've looked at naming them, addressing them, and the importance of naming them. And we've looked at the 3 different ways of adding actions. And you've seen just how lightningly fast it is, well, maybe not lightning, just how fast it is to save those actions and get a working system. In the next videos, we'll be looking at how dimmers work. Same principles, but very subtly different. In other videos, we'll look at interval timers, start-stop timers. We'll look at how that could be applied in the real world. And then in other videos, we'll be looking at how the same relay pack can be used in a heating system or a cooling system. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so you're the first to know when new videos get launched. And please click any of the links above to see some new videos.